Welcome to part 2 of modeling a high resolution can. So now we're going to go in here and cut this in half. So you don't have to be completely precise. So I'm going to hold down the shift key, right click over it, and do insert edge loop tool, and just kind of insert an edge where you think the middle would be. Okay, so we're going to take that and we are going to move the can down. Okay. And let's see here. So I think what we'll do is, that's about right. That's pretty close. Maybe move that down just a little bit more. And what we'll do is we'll take the faces and delete the bottom. So I'm just marquee selecting that and deleting the bottom. And I'm going to move, for this to work, I'm going to move that down to the bottom. Okay, about that close to the bottom. I'm going to right click over this, two vertices. I'm going to click on the grid snap tool and snap those down. Okay, there we go. That's a grid snap tool. It's just below the main menu bar. And then what we're going to do is have that selected, and we're going to move that pivot point up. So I'm going to make sure the grid snap's still on, and I'm going to hold the D key down and move that up. Okay, until it snaps in. The D key is a pivot point move tool. I did the W to move it up, and we need to have the grid snap so it snaps. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit, Delete by Type History, Modify Freeze Transformations. Here we go. And we want to go into Edit, Duplicate Special. We want to go ahead and edit Reset Settings. And we're going to scale that X, Y, or Z. We're going to do the Y. So I'm going to do -1 on that. And I'm going to click on Duplicate Special. There we go. Okay, we're almost there. So now we're going to take the top of the can, shift select the bottom of the can, and let's go to Combine. Now if these don't show up right, just go to Select here and then make sure your object's selected there, and Object Mode, and then hold down the Shift key and select both of those and go ahead and combine. You can either combine this way with the icon, or you can go in here to Mesh Combine. Either way, it'll combine the object together. Now we need to marquee select the center vertices, and notice that we have 40 vertices. Now if you don't see this display, you can go to Display, Heads Up Display, and go into Polycount, and that will show you the polygons. So if I marquee select just the center of these vertices, you can see I've got 40. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to merge those together. So holding down the Shift key, the space bar, and I'm going to go to Edit Mesh, and go down to Merge, and then go into the option box. And in Merge Threshold, we want something like 0.01. So 0.01, and then go ahead and merge. And notice that in here, when I click on the merge, that'll go down to 20. So right now we have vertices on top of each other, so this will merge those down. So I'm going to go ahead and merge. There we go. And notice that we went from 40 to 20, which means we merged all the vertices that need to be merged. So now we've got a can. If we hit the 1 key, let's go ahead and hit the 3 key, and this is what it looks like from top to bottom. So it looks really good. Alright, so we don't need the center edge, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and select the edge, and we want to deselect the edge and the vertices at the same time. Now if I just hit delete, notice that when I right click over this, I still have the vertices there. Okay, so to get both of them, to delete both of them at the same time, let's go back. I'm going to go into edge mode, double click on it, and then do Control Delete, and that will get rid of all the vertices in there, as you can see. There we go. Okay, so we just move this up and make sure that it's the same scale or the same size again. Turn off grid snap, and notice I'm a little bit short here. So I'm going to move that up just a little bit so we match the bottom of this, and then we'll go up here, and I'm off just a little bit. So I'm going to right click over this, go to vertex, and I'm going to move that up to where it matches the top. And now that is ready. The soup can is ready. So I'm going to duplicate this again, Control D, and this will be the duplicate with the edge loops. Okay. Now normally I save the very low polygon, and I did not do that this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and smooth this out so we get that part done. So I'm going to hold down the space bar, go to mesh, and then go to smooth, and then I'm going to go very high on this. I'm going to do 3. Usually I don't do that high of a smoothing, but for the high resolution image, and we won't use it in game, so we'll be okay. So click on smooth, and you can see that we got 3 divisions here. What I want you to do is select it, and I want you to do edit, delete by type, history. Now if we have any translations in here, we probably want to get rid of those too. So let's go to modify, freeze transformations, and also modify center pivot. So now our object is nice and clean, and it is a high resolution image. So I want to go ahead and add that to a layer and rename that high res. Okay, there we go, and then turn that off, and then we can kind of look at where we came from. We got the edge loops, and then we have the block out, and that doesn't have the edge loops. So we can go back to this and make changes to this from this point on, and add things if we wanted to. Okay, so what we need to do is go back and create a low res object. So what I'm going to do to get that matching fairly well is I'm going to go into the cylinder and go from, and I'm probably turn off the background. And I should have done this in the first place, meaning that I just forgot. So I'm going to make that about the size of the bottom of the can, and I'll move it up like that. And then I'm going to go in here and select the vertices. So next time I'll be a little more cautious and make sure I get this set up right the first time. So the low poly needs to kind of encompass the high poly. So we don't want the high poly to come out at all. Okay. So what I'll end up doing is probably making that a little bit larger. So you can see that the high poly is still a little bit bigger, larger. So let's take a look, and since that's the block out, let me turn on the high res. You can see that's kind of shrunk a little bit. So let's go ahead and scale that down just a little bit to the high resolution, like that. And then we'll move it down a little bit, like that. We want the low poly to encompass or be slightly larger. Not a lot larger, whoops, but just slightly larger than the other. Okay, so let's move that up a little bit. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Alright, so when we look at it, let's go to the top view and make that just a little bit bigger, like that. And then let's move that down a little bit. And this will give us a nice bake when we go into the next phase, which is the baking phase. Okay. Alright, cool. So that is it. So we've got, this is our low poly. This is what we're actually going to put in game. And it's at 60 faces. Okay. And let's go ahead and put that in a layer. And that will be low poly. Okay. That looks good. Alright, cool. So you can turn that off and on. You can see that we've got a very high resolution object underneath, and that is 77,440. So that's a lot of polygons for one little food can. But we're going to bake all that information that we see here, even the edges, to the low poly. And it should do a pretty good job, hopefully. Alright, so that's it. As long as the low poly is encompassing the high poly, we should be good. So that's it for this part 2 of the high resolution can and low resolution can. Alright, so part 3 will be baking maps. Until then.